Welcome to Neural Nexus Podcast, where we explore the hottest topics shaping the world. Let's dive in.
Okay, so get this. We're diving into like a political thriller, but it's real life, We've got this BBC article, right? It's all about the sentencing of Donald Trump, the president-elect, in that whole hush money thing.
Yeah, this is pretty remarkable. We're talking about president-elect days away from taking office who's about to get sentenced for a crime.
Hold up. Let's just make sure everyone's on the same page here. Talking like 34 felony counts, right? Falsifying business records, all because of that $130,000 payment to, what's her name? Stormy Daniels, the adult film star, to keep quiet about an affair during the 2016 election. I mean, it's crazy.
And it gets even crazier, right? Because the judge, Juan Merchan, he's saying he probably won't give Trump jail time.
No jail time, really. But he was convicted of a felony. What happens then?
He's considering something called a conditional discharge.
Conditional discharge. What's that even mean for a president? Does that mean no consequences?
Well, not exactly. See, a conditional discharge, it could come with stipulations, things that could really impact his presidency.
Okay, now you've got me hooked. What kind of stipulations are we talking about here?
Think about it. Maybe restrictions on his business dealings? Or limits on his public statements, even mandatory reporting requirements. Things like that could really change how he operates as president.
Whoa. I hadn't even thought about restrictions on his business. That'd be, unprecedented, right?
Totally unprecedented. We've never seen anything like this. It raises so many questions, like the balance of power, limits on presidential authority, and what about, actually governing with all that hanging over your head?
And what about Trump himself? What's he saying about all this? He's been pretty vocal about this case, right?
Oh, yeah. He's been trying to get the whole thing thrown out, saying it's all political, a witch hunt. His team's saying he needs to focus on being president. All this legal stuff is just a distraction.
I get that, but couldn't that set a dangerous precedent? Any future president could just say they're too busy to deal with legal problems.
Yeah, it's a valid concern. Makes you wonder, right, about accountability. Can a president be held to the same standard as everyone else?
Sounds like we're in uncharted territory here. Legally, ethically, the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't Trump try to use, presidential immunity to get out of this?
He did, but it didn't work. The Supreme Court, they've said presidential immunity only applies to, quote-unquote, official actions, while in office. Covering up an affair before becoming president doesn't really fit that.
So what you're saying is this wasn't something he did as president. It was way before that, right?
Exactly. And remember, this isn't his only legal problem. He's got 3 other criminal cases going on. Classified documents, election interference. Those could be even bigger down the road.
Wow. Things just got a lot more complicated. It's crazy how this whole hush money thing is blown up into something so much bigger. This could have consequences way beyond this one case.
It really shows how everything's connected, the legal system, politics, everything. Actions have consequences, and in this case, those consequences are playing out for the whole world to see.
It feels like we're on the edge of our seats here, just waiting to see how this unfolds.
Okay.
So jail time's probably off the table. But what else could Trump face for falsifying business records?
Well, that's where it gets tricky. There's no minimum sentence. The judge has a lot of leeway. It could be fines, community service, maybe even restrictions on his business. Who knows?
I can't imagine any of those scenarios being good for a sitting president. Can you picture a president doing community service? Or being banned from making business deals while running the country?
It would be a spectacle for sure. Really makes you think, right? How would those restrictions affect his job? Could he still do it effectively? And what about public trust?
This is a lot to process,
Mhm.
and we're just getting started. So think about it. What does it mean for a president to be operating under a conditional discharge? Does that change how you see the office? How you see the person holding it?
Yeah, it's a question that goes way beyond the legal stuff. It's about our fundamental ideas of presidential power, of accountability, of what American democracy even means.
Heavy stuff.
Yeah.
We'll dig in even deeper in part 2. So buckle up. This is about to get even more intense. Okay, so we're back, and we're still trying to wrap our heads around this whole situation with Trump, president-elect about to be sentenced. It's just, I don't know, it's wild.
Yeah, it definitely throws a wrench into, how we usually think about the presidency.
Right. Last time we were talking about conditional discharge, but I'm still kind of stuck on, what exactly could they make him do? What conditions could actually impact how he does the job?
Right.
as president.
Well, I mean, imagine this, right? The judge could say, restrict his business dealings, like
Yeah.
no more making those deals. Or how about this, limits on his social media? What if he couldn't tweet?
Whoa, hold on. No more tweeting. That would change everything. How would he, talk to people, get his message out?
Right. It'd force him to, use those old school ways of communicating, press conferences, speeches, Maybe that'd be a good thing. Maybe he'd have to be more careful with what he says. But then again, maybe he'd lose that direct connection with his base.
It's like this whole thing is making us rethink what a president even is in, the age of Twitter. But, okay, back up a sec. You mentioned those other criminal cases against Trump. Can you remind me what those are about again?
Sure. So there's one about those classified documents, right? The ones he took after leaving office. And then there are two more, both about messing with the 2020 election.
Oh, right. So those are totally separate from the hush money thing.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of legal stuff. Could those other cases, be even worse for him than this one?
It's possible, yeah. I mean, the charges in those cases are pretty serious. If he gets convicted, who knows what could happen?
So hold on. We could have a president-elect dealing with, 4 different legal battles at the same time while also trying to run the country. How would that even work?
Yeah, it'd be a huge distraction, right? Could he even focus on being president with all that going on? But here's the thing. It's not like presidents haven't had legal problems before. It's happened throughout history. But this is different. We've never had a president-elect who's already been found guilty of something. It's totally new territory.
I know, right? It's like we're making this up as we go along. And what about, the public? How do you think people will react to this? We're already so divided. Could this just make things worse?
It could, yeah. It's a real risk. I mean, some people will see this conviction as, proof that the system works, that no one is above the law. But then others, they'll see it as a witch hunt. Like the system is out to get him, and that kind of thinking. It just makes that divide even deeper.
Yeah, it feels like this whole thing is putting our democracy to the test. It's making us face some uncomfortable truths, about our system, about the people we choose to lead us.
Right. And we can't shy away from those truths. So let's get back to the specifics here, right? Jail time is unlikely. We've said that. But what are the arguments for and against it in this hush money case?
Yeah, good point. Let's break that down.
Okay, so on one side, you've got people saying, look, no one's above the law, right? Doesn't matter who you are, if you commit a felony, you do the time. Especially if it's about messing with our elections,
I get that. It's about upholding the law,
Right.
right? Setting an example,
Yeah.
showing that even the most powerful people have to play by the rules.
Exactly. But then on the other side, you've got folks saying, come on, the guy's already paying a price. His reputation's shot. He's constantly being scrutinized. And he's got these other cases hanging over him. They say that's enough. He's already been punished.
So they're basically saying the damage is already done.
Right.
Right. Putting him in jail would just cause more chaos, maybe even destabilize the whole country.
That's one way to look at it, yeah. And they also bring up the practical side. How do you even put a sitting president in jail? Who takes over? What happens to the country? It could cause a huge constitutional crisis.
Well, this judge has got a tough job. He's got to balance the crime, the consequences, not just for Trump, but for everyone. It's a lot of pressure.
And no matter what he decides, some people are going to be mad. That's just how it is with a case this big, this political. There's always going to be someone who thinks justice wasn't served.
It's true. It feels like we're all just waiting to exhale, just waiting to see what happens next. But in the meantime, think about this. What does it mean to have a president under a cloud of suspicion like this? Does it change how you see the office? Does it make you question if our system even works?
Those are the questions we all need to be asking ourselves, right? This whole thing is making us confront some fundamental stuff about leadership, about accountability, about the very idea of American democracy.
Heady stuff,
Yeah.
for sure. And we're not done yet. In part 3, we'll talk about the big picture, how this whole thing could affect society, the future of the presidency, all of that. So stick around. All right, so here we are, the final part of this deep dive, and things are about to get really real. We've talked about Trump's sentencing, the whole conditional discharge thing, the other legal stuff he's dealing with. But now I want to kind of zoom out, look at the bigger picture. How does this whole mess affect the country, society, all of that?
Yeah, you're right. This case, it's like holding up a mirror to us, to all the divisions, the anxieties we're feeling as a nation. It makes you think about fairness, accountability. Can our system actually hold powerful people responsible?
Last time, we talked about how the public might react, right? And I keep coming back to this conditional discharge thing. Could that, damage people's trust in the justice system. If it looks like Trump's getting off easy,
It's a huge risk. If people think Trump, as president-elect, is getting special treatment, that he's above the law, it feeds into that whole idea that there are two systems of justice, one for the elites and one for everyone else. And that's toxic for a society.
Yeah, I see what you mean. People start feeling like the system's rigged, like the rules don't apply to everyone equally. It's like, why even bother, right?
Exactly. That kind of cynicism, it makes it so much harder to fix things, to address inequality, corruption, all of that. People lose faith. They stop believing change is possible. They check out.
It's like this case, it's a mini version of all the bigger problems we're facing, right? Fairness, accountability, what does it even mean to be a democracy? All of that.
It brings all those questions to the surface, forces us to confront them.
And it's not going away anytime soon. I'm also thinking about like the long-term effects. If a president-elect can basically avoid real consequences for a felony, what message does that send to future presidents?
It's a scary thought, isn't it? It could set a precedent. Like, it's okay to push the boundaries, to break the rules, because nothing really bad will happen.
So it's not just about Trump, right? It's about, like, the presidency itself, the standards we expect from our leaders.
Exactly. It's about the whole institution.
Man, there's so much to think about here. We've covered a lot in this deep dive. But before we go, there's one thing I keep coming back to. We've talked about the legal stuff, the political stuff, but what about, like, the psychological impact? How is all this affecting people, emotionally?
Yeah, that's important too. We're living in like a pressure cooker right now, so much anxiety, uncertainty. In this case, with all the drama, the potential for chaos, it just adds to that, It takes a toll.
I think we're all just waiting for the next bombshell. It's exhausting, There's this feeling that things are, like, off balance.
It can be really unsettling and makes it hard to trust, hard to look ahead with any kind of hope.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you all with this. This case, it's shown us the cracks in our system. The institutions we rely on, they're not perfect. They can be broken. But maybe, just maybe, these moments, these crises, they can also be a wake-up call, a chance to recommit to the things that matter, to the values that make democracy work.
Yeah, it's a reminder that we're all in this together, right? What we do, the choices we make, they have consequences. This case, it's a call to action, to get involved, to fight for the kind of future we want, to make democracy stronger.
Powerful stuff. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a wild ride, and it's definitely not over yet. But by talking about these tough issues, by really wrestling with them, maybe we can start to move forward towards something better, something more just. That's what I hope for anyway. And that's it for this deep dive. See you next time.